My wife Jennifer always said she was terrible with money. That's what she told me on our third date 8 years ago when I offered to pay for dinner and she laughed and said thank God because her bank account was always running on empty. That's what she told me when we got married 6 years ago and combined our finances, well, sort of combined them. She kept her own checking account for her personal expenses and I managed everything else. The mortgage, the bills, the savings, the retirement accounts. She said numbers stressed her out, that she'd never been good at budgeting, that she trusted me to handle it all. My name is David Morrison. I'm 34 years old and I work as a senior accountant at a mid-size firm in Seattle. I'm good with numbers. It's literally my job to track money, to find discrepancies, to make sure everything adds up. So when Jennifer said she was bad with money, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was a talented graphic designer who made decent money, but she always seemed to be broke by the end of the month. Always asking if we could push back her credit card payment a few days. Always surprised when I showed her how much she'd spent on coffee or clothes or dinners out with friends. I loved her anyway. She was creative and spontaneous in ways I wasn't. She made me laugh. She balanced out my careful, planned, budget-focused personality with her artistic chaos. So I took over the finances completely. She transferred her paycheck to our joint account every month and I gave her an allowance for personal spending. $2,000 a month for whatever she wanted. No questions asked. She seemed happy with that arrangement. Said it took the pressure off. Said she didn't have to think about money anymore. For 6 years that's how we lived. I managed everything, she spent her allowance, we were happy. We bought a house in a nice suburb. Took vacations twice a year. Started talking about having kids. Normal married life. Then last month something strange happened that started unraveling everything I thought I knew about my wife. It was a Tuesday evening in late October. I was in my home office going through our monthly bills when I noticed something odd. Our mortgage payment had bounced. That had never happened before. I kept our checking account well funded, always made sure there was a cushion of at least $10,000 for automatic payments. I logged into our bank account online to see what had gone wrong. The balance showed $3,247. That was impossible. I checked it 3 days ago and we'd had over $12,000. I scrolled through the recent transactions looking for some massive charge, some fraud, something to explain where $9,000 had disappeared to in 3 days. And there it was. A transfer. $9,000 transferred out to an account I didn't recognize. The receiving account number was partially obscured for security, but I could see it was at a different bank. Chase, not our usual Bank of America. I felt my chest tighten. We didn't have a Chase account. At least I didn't have a Chase account. The transfer was labeled, Internal Transfer J. Morrison. J. Morrison. Jennifer Morrison. My wife had transferred $9,000 out of our joint account to some account I didn't know existed. I sat there staring at the screen trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she'd accidentally transferred money to the wrong account. Maybe there was a simple explanation. I called her. She was at her studio working late on a client project. Hey babe, she answered. Her voice was cheerful, normal. What's up? Did you transfer $9,000 out of our checking account today? There was a pause. A long pause. Too long. Yeah, she finally said. I needed to move some money around. Her voice had changed. Less cheerful now. More guarded. Move it where? I asked. Where do you have another account that I don't know about? Another pause. It's just a personal account, David. For my own stuff. We talked about this. We never talked about this, I said. I would remember if we talked about you having a secret bank account with enough money in it to need $9,000 transfers. It's not secret, Jennifer said. Her tone was getting defensive now. I've always had my own account. From before we got married. I just don't use it much. Then why are you transferring $9,000 into it? I demanded. What do you need $9,000 for that you can't pay for from your allowance or our joint account? I don't have to explain every financial decision to you, she snapped. It's my money, David. I earn it. I can do what I want with it. Technically, yes, she earned her salary of about $75,000 a year as a freelance designer. But we'd agreed when we got married that we were a team, that we'd be transparent about money, that we wouldn't make large financial decisions without discussing them first. $9,000 was a large financial decision. I'm not trying to control you, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. I'm trying to understand why our mortgage bounced because you transferred almost all our available cash to an account I didn't know existed. Can you at least tell me what it's for? I'll transfer the money back, she said. I didn't realize it would make the mortgage bounce. I'm sorry. That's not an answer to my question. David, I'm working, she said. Can we talk about this when I get home? Fine, I said and hung up. But I didn't wait for her to get home to start investigating. Because something felt very wrong. If Jennifer had a personal account that she'd had since before we got married, why had she never mentioned it? Why had she spent 6 years pretending to be broke, pretending to be bad with money, when apparently she had enough in some secret account to casually transfer $9,000? I am an accountant. I know how to find financial information. I started with the basics. I pulled up our joint credit report, the one we'd used when we applied for our mortgage. It listed all accounts in both our names. Sure enough, there was a Chase checking account listed under Jennifer's name that I'd never noticed before. It had been opened 11 years ago, 3 years before we met. The credit report didn't show the balance, just that the account existed and was in good standing. Next I checked our tax returns. As a married couple filing jointly, all income had to be reported. I pulled up last year's return. Jennifer's W-2s from her various freelance clients totaled $74,332. That matched what I'd expected. But then I saw something else. Schedule B interest income. There was $3,847 in interest income reported under Jennifer's Social Security number. Interest from a Chase savings account. My stomach dropped. You don't earn $3,000 in interest unless you have a substantial balance in your savings account. Even with a high-yield savings account at 2% interest, you'd need to have over $190,000 in the account to generate that much interest. I checked the previous year's return. Schedule B showed $3,234 in interest income. The year before that, $2,891. Going back through 5 years of tax returns, Jennifer had been earning between $2,000 and $4,000 in interest income every single year. I did the math in my head. Conservative estimate, my wife had at least $200,000 in a savings account I'd never known about. Maybe more. While I'd been carefully budgeting our joint finances, planning for our retirement, worrying about building our emergency fund, she'd been sitting on a small fortune and pretending to be financially incompetent. I felt sick. Not just confused anymore, actually physically sick. This wasn't just having a personal account. This was deception. This was 6 years of lying about money while I worked overtime to make sure we could afford our mortgage and our car payments and our vacations. 6 years of watching her struggle with her $2,000 monthly allowance while she had hundreds of thousands of dollars hidden away. Jennifer came home around 10 p.m. I was still in my office, surrounded by printed tax returns and bank statements and my own handwritten notes calculating how much money she must have been hiding. She appeared in the doorway looking nervous. "Hey," she said softly. "Are you still mad? How much is in the Chase account?" I asked without looking up. "What? How much money do you have in the Chase account that you've had for 11 years and never told me about?" She leaned against the doorframe. "I don't think that's any of your business." I turned to face her. "You've earned over $3,000 a year in interest income for the past 5 years. That means you have at least $200,000 in that account. So I'll ask again. How much?" Jennifer's face went pale. "You went through my tax returns?" "There are tax returns," I corrected her. "Joint returns. Which means I know about the interest income you never mentioned. Which means I know you've been lying to me about being bad with money. Which means I want to know how much you're hiding and why." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she walked into the office and sat down in the chair across from my desk. Her hands were shaking slightly. $340,000, she said quietly. "Give or take a few thousand depending on the market." I felt like I'd been punched. $340,000. My wife had $350,000 in a secret account while we'd spent 6 years living paycheck to paycheck. Or at least that's what I'd thought we were doing. While I'd been stressing about having enough in our emergency fund, enough for a down payment on our house, enough to eventually afford kids. "Where did you get $340,000? I asked. My voice came out hoarse. She looked down at her hands. "It's from before we met. I had a small inheritance from my grandmother when I was 23. About $80,000. I invested it carefully. It grew. And I've been adding to it every year from my freelance income." "Adding to it," I repeated. "You've been adding to it. Which means you've been taking money from your paychecks, money that we agreed would go into our joint account for our joint life, and secretly funneling it into your personal account." Jennifer's eyes flashed with anger. "Not secretly. I kept my own account. That's not a crime, David. But you lied about being bad with money. You lied about being broke all the time. You let me manage everything and stress about our finances while you were sitting on $350,000. She stood up. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference." "That's literally the definition of lying," I said. "Lying by omission is still lying, Jennifer. Why do you even care?" she demanded. We have everything we need. The bills get paid. We go on vacations. We're comfortable. What difference does it make if I have my own money set aside? The difference is trust, I said. The difference is that I thought we were partners. I thought we were building a life together. But apparently you've been building an escape fund. It's not an escape fund, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then what is it? I pressed. Why do you need $340,000 that your husband doesn't know about? What are you planning, Jennifer? She didn't answer. She just stood there looking guilty and defensive and scared. And that's when I knew. She was planning to leave. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday. She'd been preparing for it all along. Building up her secret nest egg so that when she decided our marriage was over, she could walk away financially independent. I felt something break inside my chest. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my office. I can't look at you right now. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. David, please. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You've been lying to me for 6 years. You've been planning your exit strategy for 6 years. You've let me believe we were partners while secretly preparing to leave. So get out before I say something I'll regret. She left. I heard her footsteps going upstairs, heard the bedroom door close. I sat in my office until 3 a.m. going through every document I could find, trying to piece together the full picture of my wife's financial deception. By the time the sun came up, I had a pretty clear understanding of what she'd been doing. Every year, Jennifer reported about $75,000 in freelance income on our taxes. But I'd always assumed most of that went into our joint account for household expenses. Now I realized she'd been keeping a significant portion for herself. Looking at our joint account deposits over the past 6 years, she'd only been contributing about $40,000 a year to our household finances. The other $35,000 had been going directly into her secret Chase account. Meanwhile, I'd been contributing my entire $95,000 salary to our joint finances. I'd been paying the mortgage, the property taxes, the utilities, the insurance, the car payments, the groceries, the repairs, everything, while also giving her a $2,000 monthly allowance for personal expenses. So effectively, Jennifer had been living off my income while hoarding her own. I did more calculations. Over 6 years, she'd contributed about $240,000 to our joint life while secretly keeping about $210,000 for herself, plus whatever growth her investments had generated. I'd contributed my entire salary of $570,000 plus paid for everything else. We weren't partners. I was her bank and she was my dependent who happened to have a secret fortune. At 7 a.m. I called my brother Marcus. He was a divorce attorney in Portland. I'd never thought I'd need his professional services, but here we were. Marcus, I said when he answered. I need legal advice. He could hear something in my voice. What happened? I found out Jennifer has $340,000 in a secret account she's been hiding from me for our entire marriage. There was a pause. How long have you been married? 6 years. Washington State is a community property state, Marcus said. Any money earned during the marriage is jointly owned regardless of whose name is on the account. If she earned that money while you were married, you're entitled to half. Most of it was from before we met, I said. She had an inheritance of $80,000 that she invested. But she's been adding to it throughout our marriage. Then you're entitled to half of whatever was added during the marriage, Marcus said. Plus, if she was hiding assets, a judge isn't going to look favorably on that in divorce proceedings. You're thinking I should divorce her? I asked. I'm thinking you should protect yourself, Marcus said. If she's been planning an exit strategy, you need one too. Get documentation of everything. Account statements, tax returns, contribution records. Then talk to a local divorce attorney. Don't do anything rash, but be prepared. I called in sick to work. I spent the entire day documenting Jennifer's secret accounts. I requested our full tax transcripts from the IRS going back to the year we got married. I pulled our joint bank account statements showing her deposits versus mine. I created a spreadsheet tracking every dollar that had gone in and out of our household finances over 6 years. By the time Jennifer came home from her studio that evening, I had a complete financial picture of our marriage. And it was ugly. She found me in the kitchen making coffee. I hadn't slept. Hadn't eaten. Just worked through my anger and betrayal with spreadsheets and documentation. David, she said tentatively. Can we please talk about this? Sure, I said. Let's talk. Let's talk about how you've contributed $240,000 to our marriage over 6 years while I've contributed $570,000. Let's talk about how you've been living off my income while hoarding yours. Let's talk about how you've been planning to leave me while I've been planning our future. I'm not planning to leave you, she insisted. Then explain the secret account. Explain the lies. Explain why you needed me to believe you were bad with money when you're clearly very good with it. Jennifer sat down at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted. When we first started dating, she began, you made a comment about women who marry men for money. You said you'd never stay with someone who was just using you as an ATM. Do you remember that? Vaguely, I said. It was during some conversation about a coworker's messy divorce. So what? So I got scared, Jennifer said. I really liked you, David. I could see us having a future together. But I also knew you made more money than me, and I was terrified you'd think I was only interested in you for financial security. So I downplayed my finances. I made myself seem like I needed you to take care of me so you'd never think I was a gold digger. That doesn't explain 6 years of deception, I said. It doesn't explain hiding $340,000. She looked down at her hands. It started as protection. My mom always told me to keep money aside that my husband couldn't touch. She'd been dependent on my dad, and when he left her for a younger woman, she had nothing. She had to start over at 50 with no savings, no career, no financial independence. She made me promise I'd never be that vulnerable. So you've been preparing for me to leave you? I asked. She shook her head. I've been preparing for the possibility. Not because I think you're a bad person or because I want to leave. Just because I'm scared of being helpless. I watched my mom struggle, and I swore I'd never put myself in that position. I felt my anger deflating slightly. I understood that fear, intellectually at least. But understanding didn't erase the betrayal. You could have told me that, I said. You could have said you wanted to keep some financial independence. We could have had an honest conversation about it. I didn't think you'd understand, Jennifer said. You're so logical about money. You plan everything. You budget everything. I thought you'd try to talk me out of it or make me feel stupid for being scared. Instead, you made me feel stupid for trusting you, I said. Do you know what it's like to discover your wife has been lying to you for 6 years? To realize the person you thought you knew has been hiding a massive secret? Jennifer started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, David. I never meant to hurt you. I was just trying to protect myself. By treating me like a threat? By planning for our marriage to fail? She didn't have an answer for that. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, I said, I need complete transparency going forward. I need access to all your accounts. I need to see statements, balances, everything. If we're going to stay married, we need to actually be partners. Okay, Jennifer said. Whatever you need. And I want us to see a financial counselor together. Someone who can help us figure out how to rebuild trust around money. She nodded. Okay. And Jennifer? She looked up at me with red, tear-stained eyes. If I ever find out you're hiding anything else from me, anything at all, I'm gone. I won't give you a second chance after this. I understand, she whispered. The next few months were hard. Really hard. We started seeing a therapist who specialized in financial infidelity. That's apparently a thing, common enough that there are therapists who deal specifically with couples who've lied to each other about money. Our therapist, Dr. Rebecca Chin, helped us understand the deeper issues underneath Jennifer's deception. For Jennifer, money represented safety and independence. Her mother's experience had traumatized her more than she'd realized. She'd internalized the message that depending on a man financially was dangerous, that she needed a secret escape fund to survive. The problem was that keeping that secret had required ongoing deception, which undermined the very relationship she was trying to protect. For me, the issue was control and partnership. I thought we were making financial decisions together as a team. Discovering Jennifer had been making major financial decisions alone for years made me feel excluded from my own marriage. It made me question everything else about our relationship. If she'd lied about this, what else was she lying about? Dr. Chin gave us homework. Jennifer had to provide complete transparency about all her finances. We set up a shared spreadsheet showing all accounts, all balances, all transactions. Nothing hidden. In exchange, I had to work on letting go of some control. We created a new financial plan where Jennifer kept her separate account for genuine personal independence, but with full disclosure. She'd maintain $100,000 as her personal safety fund. Anything above that would go into our joint savings. She also had to explain every transaction from the past that had gone into her secret account. Where the money came from, what she'd been thinking, why she'd hidden it. It was painful. Sometimes I got angry all over again hearing about some freelance project where she'd taken the entire payment and hidden it instead of contributing to our household. Sometimes she got defensive and we'd fight about whether she had the right to keep her own earnings. But slowly, very slowly, we started rebuilding trust. Jennifer showed me her Chase account statements going back years. I could see the inheritance deposit from 11 years ago. I could see her careful investments, her steady contributions, her conservative financial management. She actually was good with money. Really good. Better than me in some ways. She turned $80,000 into $340,000 through smart investing and consistent saving. That took discipline and knowledge. I also had to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself. I'd liked being the financial expert in our relationship. I'd liked being the one who handled everything, who made the decisions, who controlled our economic destiny. Jennifer's secret account had threatened that identity. Part of my anger wasn't just about the deception. It was about discovering I wasn't as necessary as I'd thought. She didn't actually need me to manage money. She was perfectly capable on her own. Dr. Chin pointed this out in one of our sessions. David, how did it make you feel to discover Jennifer is financially independent? Threatened, I admitted. Like she didn't need me. And if she doesn't need you financially, Dr. Chin asked, what does that mean about your relationship? I had to sit with that question for a long time. Eventually I realized I wanted Jennifer to be with me because she loved me, not because she needed me to pay the bills. I wanted a partnership of equals, not a dependency relationship. But that meant letting go of the control and superiority I'd felt as the financially responsible one. 6 months after the discovery, we had a breakthrough. Jennifer came to me with a proposal. I want to contribute more to our joint finances, she said. I've been doing the math and it's not fair that you're paying for everything while I hoard my money. I want us to split household expenses proportionally based on our incomes. We worked out a new system. I made $95,000 and she made $75,000. So we contributed to joint expenses on a 56-44 split. That meant Jennifer would put significantly more into our household budget than before. It would slow down the growth of her personal account. But it would also make our marriage more equitable. I also insisted we create a joint emergency fund that we both controlled. $50,000 set aside for genuine emergencies. Jennifer agreed. She transferred $25,000 from her Chase account to start the fund. Seeing her willingly reduce her secret safety net to invest in our joint future, that meant something. It was a gesture of trust. We also did something else. We equalized our personal allowances. Instead of me giving Jennifer $2,000 a month while I took whatever I wanted from our joint account, we both got the same monthly personal budget. $1,500 each. What we did with that money was our own business. No questions asked. But everything else was joint. This arrangement meant I actually had less personal spending money than before. I'd been used to buying whatever I wanted without thinking about it as long as the household bills were paid. Now I had to budget my personal expenses just like Jennifer. It was humbling. But it was also fair. A year after I'd discovered the secret account, we were in a different place. Not perfect. Trust doesn't rebuild in 12 months. But better. Honest. More equal. Jennifer still had her Chase account, but now it showed up on our shared financial spreadsheet. I could log in and check the balance anytime I wanted. She could do the same with all my accounts. We'd settled into a routine of monthly financial meetings. Once a month we'd sit down together and review everything. Joint accounts, personal accounts, investments, goals. We'd talk about upcoming expenses, savings targets, vacation plans. It was boring and uncomfortable at first. Jennifer hated talking about money and I hated giving up control. But over time it became normal. Our monthly financial date night. Then something unexpected happened. We got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but it wasn't unwelcome. And suddenly all our financial planning took on new urgency and meaning. We weren't just budgeting for ourselves anymore. We were preparing for a baby. Our baby. That changed the emotional calculus completely. Jennifer came to me one evening during her second trimester. She'd been doing some thinking. David, I want to do something with the money in my Chase account. I felt a familiar anxiety spike. What do you want to do? I want to use part of it for the baby's college fund. And part of it as down payment on a bigger house. Our current place only has 2 bedrooms. We're going to have a family, we need more space. I stared at her. You want to use your safety money? The money you've been protecting for years in case I turn into your dad and leave you? She smiled sadly. I've been thinking about what Dr. Chin said. About how my fear was preventing me from fully investing in our marriage. This money has been like insurance against you betraying me. But keeping that insurance has required me to keep betraying you with secrets and lies. I don't want to live like that anymore. Are you sure? I asked. What about your mom's advice? What about protecting yourself? Jennifer took my hand. My mom was protecting herself from a man who didn't love her anymore. You love me. I know that now. And I need to trust that love enough to actually build a life with you, not just prepare to escape from one. She paused. Also, you could have divorced me and taken half that money legally. You didn't? That tells me something about who you are. We used $80,000 from her account as additional down payment on a 4-bedroom house in a better school district. We put $50,000 into a $529 college savings plan for the baby. We kept the remaining $210,000 as Jennifer's personal fund, but now with the explicit understanding that it wasn't an escape fund. It was investment capital. Money she could use for opportunities, for security, for whatever she needed. In exchange, I gave her something too. I gave her equal access to all my accounts. All my retirement funds, all my investments, everything. I made her a joint owner instead of just a beneficiary. I showed her my passwords, my account numbers, my financial strategy. Full transparency both ways. Our daughter Emma was born on a rainy morning in March. Jennifer went into labor at 3 a.m. and I drove us to the hospital through flooding streets thinking about how much had changed in the past 2 years. 2 years ago I'd been furious and betrayed, ready to divorce my wife over her financial deception. Now I was about to become a father with that same woman. Life was strange. When Emma was 3 months old, Jennifer did something that surprised me. She went back to Dr. Chin alone for a session. When she came home she wanted to talk. Dr. Chin helped me understand something today, Jennifer said. We were sitting in our new living room. Emma was asleep in her bassinet. I've been so focused on financial independence as protection against being abandoned. But real independence isn't about having money hidden away. It's about being capable and confident enough to survive no matter what happens. What does that mean practically? I asked. It means I don't need a secret safety net anymore. I need skills, knowledge, confidence. So I'm going back to school. I'm going to get my MBA. I want to understand business and finance as well as I understand design. I want to be able to earn and manage and invest without fear. That's a big commitment, I said. 2 years of classes while working and raising Emma. I know, Jennifer said. But I think it's what I need. Not for us. For me. I need to know I'm not just protected by a bank balance. I'm protected by my own competence. I supported the decision. We arranged childcare. Jennifer cut back on freelance work to make time for classes. It was expensive and complicated and exhausting. But watching her grow in confidence as she mastered financial concepts and business strategy, that was worth it. During her second year of MBA studies, Jennifer came to me with a business proposal. Literally a proposal like a pitch deck in financial projections. She wanted to start her own design agency. Not freelancing, a real agency with employees and clients and overhead. She'd been building toward this idea throughout her MBA program. I need startup capital, she said. I'm proposing we use $100,000 from my personal account as seed funding. In exchange, you get 20% equity in the company. The rest stays mine as founder's shares. But I want you involved. I want your accounting expertise. I want us to build this together. I looked through her business plan. It was thorough, well-researched, realistic. She'd identified a market gap, developed a competitive strategy, projected conservative revenue growth. This wasn't a fantasy. This was a viable business opportunity. Why give me equity? I asked. You could fund this entirely yourself. Because I don't want to build things separately from you anymore, Jennifer said. I want us to be actual partners. In marriage, in parenting, in business. Everything transparent, everything shared. Isn't that what we've been working toward? We launched Morrison Design Group 6 months later. Jennifer as CEO and creative director, me as CFO and financial advisor while keeping my day job. We hired 2 junior designers and a project manager. We rented small office space. We landed our first major client within 3 months. The business grew slowly but steadily. By the end of year 1, we'd grossed $180,000 in revenue. Not huge but profitable. Sustainable. Promising. More importantly, we built something together. Really together, with full transparency and equal partnership. Every financial decision was discussed. Every risk was evaluated jointly. Every success was shared. This was what I'd wanted all along but hadn't known how to ask for. Not control, collaboration. Now, 4 years after I discovered Jennifer's secret account, we're in a completely different place. Morrison Design Group is generating $500,000 annually. Jennifer hired 3 more designers and is considering opening a second location. My 20% equity is worth about $200,000 if we valued the company conservatively. We're actually building wealth together now, not separately. Jennifer finished her MBA and immediately got job offers from major firms. She turned them all down to focus on growing her agency. She has the education, the credentials, the confidence to work anywhere. She doesn't need her safety fund anymore because she's built something better. She's built a career and skill set that can't be taken away. As for the original $340,000 that started all of this, it's now part of our integrated financial plan. About $150,000 remains in Jennifer's personal investment account, which she manages skillfully and profitably. Another $100,000 went into business investment. The rest has been absorbed into various joint goals: college fund, retirement accounts, real estate equity. We don't think of it as her money or my money anymore. It's our money. Different accounts for different purposes, but all transparent, all discussed, all shared. Emma is 3 now. We're talking about having a second kid. We own a beautiful home in a great school district. We're both professionally successful. We're partners in every sense of the word. But we got here through pain and deception and slow rebuilding of trust. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I'd never noticed that $9,000 transfer. If I'd never investigated. If I'd just accepted Jennifer's story about being bad with money. We might have continued like that forever. Her hiding, me controlling, both of us pretending to be something we weren't. The discovery, as painful as it was, forced us to confront fundamental issues in our relationship. Power, trust, independence, partnership. We had to rebuild our marriage on honest foundation instead of comfortable lies. That process almost destroyed us. But it also made us stronger. I learned that partnership doesn't mean control. Jennifer learned that independence doesn't require deception. Together we learned that real financial intimacy means full transparency, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it reveals things we'd rather keep hidden. Last week Jennifer and I were doing our monthly financial review. It's become almost enjoyable now, this ritual of reviewing our shared prosperity. She showed me the latest performance numbers from her agency. I showed her my retirement account projections. We talked about Emma's education savings. Then Jennifer said something that made me pause. "You know what's funny?" she said. "I spent years hiding $340,000 because I was afraid of being vulnerable. But the moment I became truly vulnerable with you, truly transparent, that's when I actually became powerful. Not because of money. Because of trust." She was right. Trust is more valuable than any bank balance. Security isn't about having money hidden away. It's about having a partner you can be honest with. Someone who sees all of you, knows all your fears and flaws and secrets, and chooses to build a life with you anyway. I don't know if every relationship can survive financial infidelity. Ours almost didn't. We survived because we both chose to do the hard work. The therapy, the transparency, the uncomfortable conversations. We chose to rebuild instead of walking away. But I also know that if Jennifer had refused to open up, if she'd insisted on keeping her secrets, I would have left. Some betrayals can be healed. Some can't. The difference is whether both people are willing to change. If you're reading this and you're hiding money from your partner, I want you to understand something. Your secret isn't protecting you. It's poisoning your relationship. Real security doesn't come from bank accounts your spouse doesn't know about. It comes from building a partnership strong enough to weather any crisis. And you can't build that partnership on lies. If you're reading this and you've just discovered your partner has been hiding money, I want you to know that you're not alone. Financial infidelity is common. It's painful. It feels like a fundamental betrayal of trust. But it can be survived if you're both willing to do the work. Get professional help. Demand transparency. Rebuild slowly. Don't try to control the outcome. Just focus on honesty and partnership and see where that leads. For Jennifer and me, it led here. To a marriage stronger than it's ever been. To a business we built together. To a family we're raising as true partners. To financial security built on transparency instead of secrets. The $340,000 that almost destroyed us became the foundation for something better. Not because of the money itself. Because of what we learned about ourselves and each other in the process of confronting the deception. Money is important. Financial security matters. But trust matters more. Partnership matters more. Honesty matters more. And sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you had to discover what you actually needed all along. For us, we needed to lose our comfortable lies to build an uncomfortable truth. And that truth, as difficult as it was to reach, became the bedrock of everything we have now.